Yo, what's up everybody? Jumping here, and today I'm back on some Anthem and I want to talk about the Storm. I made a couple videos back in the day about the Storm, and I always have been a fan of the Storm, but there was a time, for a long time, that I felt like the Storm was the weakest javelin of them all, and that was a real bummer. Then they came out with the lightning stuff, and the lightning stuff was good. It was actually really good, but it wasn't good against armor, and that was a problem. But now, since the Cataclysm has come out, oh boy, the Storm is amazing. So I'm going to talk about that here today. My Storm build is not perfect. There are things I definitely want better versions of things. And I'm going to talk about all that here. So if you're interested in the Storm, check it out. Let's go ahead and get started with this. Now, the main thing that has happened to the Storm that's made the Storm so much better is that the Storm has gotten the new ability, Steam Vent. This is amazing. First of all, it is a different version of Black Ice. Black Ice was always one of my favorite abilities on the Storm, so I was really happy that they went ahead and gave us a different version of Black Ice. This one will prime them with fire, so that's really cool. With this roll I have right now, I have 200% charges, and that's about it. Everything else is not that good. And this is the main thing that I want to get a God roll of, if possible. Now, the God roll, in my opinion, is actually one that's going to come with some gear damage, like 200 to 250% gear damage, and you can get that on the top left of the inscriptions, and then on the bottom right, you can get 100% charges, kind of like this one over here. If I had the gear damage on the top left, this would be a perfect God roll, but I don't, I just have general damage. But you do want to have some charges, in my opinion, because if you have charges and if you set it up right, you can absolutely spam this ability. You're going to see it in my gameplay. With the 200%, I'm going to be able to spam this non-stop. And it is really good when you're able to spam it. But having that extra gear damage would mean that, well, I'm just going to hit really hard. And I don't have to spam it as hard because I'm going to be doing so much more damage. So that's the God roll in my opinion. And I do have one that has a little bit of damage, but it has no extra charges. Having the damage really makes a difference. You have to trust me on that. I have friends who have like almost 400% on this thing, and this thing can practically one-shot a lot of strong enemies that you would be shocked if you could see it hit them, and you're like, wow, that is crazy. Now, let's go and talk about the Blast Seal. Now, with this, it's a little bit more complicated because there are a lot of options here. There really is. Now, the newest one, which is a different version of Lightning Strike, or Ponder Infinity, this is a really good ability. I really do like it a lot. It's a detonator and a primer. And Steam Vent is a detonator and a primer. So if you're using the two of them together, you have 2 detonators and 2 primers. Pretty freaking cool. And on top of it, it's lightning, so it can help you strip shields and stuff like that. So overall, it's pretty good. But I personally think that there's other options that are very good as well. Binary Star is one of them. Binary Star is amazing. Now, to actually have a really good version of this, you want to have some extra charges. And if you do, then you can spam it like crazy. It has a really long recharge time. It's not really a big problem with Token of the Daring, because when you lose your shield, you get all your charges back. But that's why you want to have extra charges, so that when you do lose your shield, you get all your charges back and you can spam it like crazy. Now, the other option is actually to go with Venomous Blaze. Venomous Blaze is really good. I have always felt like Venomous Blaze is one of the best blast seals that you can use. But the roll I have on this one is really crap. But in my personal opinion, I think the best thing to use is Winter's Wrath. Now, the reason why I like this one so much is because it has great synergy with Steam Vent. This will freeze targets, and it will freeze everything. It is amazing at freezing things and priming them with ice. If you then hit them with Steam Vent, that's going to detonate an ice combo, but it's also going to melt the ice because it's going to prime them with fire. So a lot of times you can do L1, R1, L1, R1, L1 armor. You're getting a ton of combos. Getting those combos means you're getting your ultimate back really quickly. It is great. Sometimes what will happen is you can actually hit them with the L1 to freeze them. Then you hit them with Steam Vent, and it will actually not only just detonate the ice combo, it will also detonate the fire combo right away. So you're getting 2 combos for the price of 1. It is amazing. Now, the roll I have on this, I'm using it for the damage. It's got gear damage, it's got elemental damage, that's great. Now, the other option I have is actually one with more charges, with more gear damage on the ability itself. But trust me, you don't need it. This doesn't really do a lot of damage. And charges-wise, it doesn't really matter because it comes back really quickly. and it actually has like 6 charges on it automatically. It is really, really good. Now let's go and talk about the weapon. Now I am using one of the new weapons. I'm using the Gravedigger. Now there are some of these new weapons that are really good, but I think the Gravedigger is one of the best. This does fire damage, so it's going to be boosted by all of the elemental bonuses that the storm is going to get. But what you really want on this, if you can get a really good one, is you want to have one that's going to have a lot of damage. I have a friend who has one with almost 400% damage. This thing melts everything when you have a god roll like that. Mine's really good, don't get me wrong. It has 250% elemental damage on it, that's nice. It has 18% pulse accelerator damage on it. That's okay, but like I said, I just prefer to have a lot more damage, like weapon damage or more elemental damage. That would be great. It has a useless inscription, which is weapon hip recoil. This is a laser, it doesn't kick. Why is that a thing? I don't know. And it also has a little bit of gear recharge. So overall, it's a really good weapon. But on the Storm, it's definitely really great just because of all the bonuses to elemental damage. And also, if you can freeze targets, like with Winter's Wrath, you can freeze a big target and then just lay into them with a weapon. Especially something like this where you can just rev it up and it will melt armor. It absolutely does insane damage to armor targets. So it is a very good weapon for the Storm. Now the other option to use, which I would also recommend, is the Rainmaker. The Rainmaker is a boss killer. Now, when you first use this weapon, you might think it's crap, okay? Because it feels like crap. When you're trying to hit a small target with this, you're going to miss a lot. And you're like, okay, this thing seems like it's really bad. Try using this against bigger targets where you can easily hit them. This thing will absolutely shred them, especially bosses. Go against any boss with this thing and start headshotting that boss and you will melt it and you will fall in love with it once you do that. So, for a weapon overall, don't really recommend it for just every target, but against big targets, especially bosses, it's amazing. It's also really good at stripping shields, so if you come across against something that has shields, shoot it with this, you'll strip the shield in no time. That is great. And because this is on a Storm, I'm not really using my weapon all that often. I'm using my abilities primarily, so I'm only using the weapon for certain situations, and against a boss, well, this is a great weapon. So those are the two weapons that I would personally recommend. There are other elemental weapons that you can try out as well that can be very good for the Storm. Now let's talk about my other weapon. I have a Wyvern's Bliss on here. Now this is just for the defense, honestly. It has 180% armor and 20% elemental damage. Now the reason I like it is because it has a lot of armor and it gives me some elemental damage. I prefer armor over shields on my Storm. I'm going to get into that a little bit later, but just know that I prefer the armor over the shields. And then finally, for my melee, I'm actually using one that gives me some shields, it gives me some armor, it gives me some gear recharge speed, it gives me repair drop rate. I'm really just using it for the stats. Lightning Surge is a good melee. When you melee something, you get your shields back. That can save your life and come in clutch. But I'm really not meleeing enemies on my Storm. I'm using my abilities, and that's primarily it. I'm up in the air. I'm not really trying to melee stuff. But if you do want to melee, you might want to use the detonator, because the detonator can be good. And if you are going to use a detonator, go for one that has a lot of weapon damage on it so that it will do more damage. And when you detonate the target, you'll get a combo. It's pretty good. But I just personally don't really like meleeing on a Storm, so instead I just go for stats to actually benefit me and make me more tanky. Now let's talk about the support system. To be honest with you, I feel like the Storm kind of got the short end of the stick when it comes to the supports. I personally just don't like either of those supports. I'm using this one right here though. I use it if I need it for the defense, if I'm going for a res, it can be useful in that way. But once again, I'm kind of using it for the stats. Now I do prefer the quickening field over the shield wall, primarily just because I think that the quickening field is a little bit more useful. It will give you recharge speed, it will also give you gear damage. It's only 20% though, so that's like not that good. But the stats on my other one is a lot better. Now when it came to getting the supports, I got really unlucky with the Storm. I don't know what it was, but these are the only two legendary supports I got for the Storm. That was it. Now luckily both of them came with 200% charges, but you can go for stats like combo targets if you want. That can be a little bit useful, I guess. But hey, like I said, I just personally feel like both of these are not that good, so go for the stats. Alrighty, now let's go ahead and talk about the components. The Storm has some amazing components. It's kind of a bummer because I wish I could put more on, but I can't. So you're going to have to make a choice on what you want. But the two staples, in my opinion, that you definitely want to use no matter what is Vanguard's Token and Softened Blows. Combining these two together will make your Storm extremely tanky, pretty much unkillable at times. It is absolutely amazing. I made videos in the past talking about this, but I am not going to actually talk about it now. I will talk a little bit about this in the gameplay if you are interested on how this works, but this will really help you stay alive as a Storm. It is amazing. Now, the next one that I think is a staple is Token of the Daring. This is going to give you elemental damage, but it will decrease your physical damage. So if you're going to use a weapon that has physical damage, you have to remember that this will decrease your physical damage. But the best part about this is that whenever your shield breaks, it will instantly recharge all your gear, including your support gear as well. So that's just amazing. It is so great whenever you lose your shield, because you're pretty much unkillable when you lose your shield. And when you lose your shield, you get all your charges back. I mean, that is crazy. Now, the thing about this is that is why I prefer armor over shields. I actually want the enemies to break my shields a lot of times so I can get my charges back. It is awesome. Next up, I'm using Emergency Power just because I like it for the ultimate damage. I also like it because this can save my life. This one has 85% shields on it and also 21% combo damage. This is kind of a combo build. I'm doing a ton of combos, so that's really nice. But the way I normally play with this is that if I actually start taking some real damage, maybe once I get about half health, I'll use my ultimate. And then if I continue to take a lot of damage, well, I'll get my ultimate right back because of this and I'll use it again. So Emergency Power is really, really good. Next up is Tome of Precision. This one is absolutely amazing. It will give you 5% electrical damage, which is kind of stupid and whatever. Anytime a component only gives you 5%, I feel like that's just a waste. But the main thing that this does is that whenever you defeat an enemy, it will increase all your elemental damage by 40% for 10 seconds. That is amazing. That's a lot of extra damage you can get for all your elemental stuff, including the new elemental weapons. So overall, this one is great. I have Shield Refresh on this one, and let me tell you, Shield Refresh is awesome because that's going to help you get your shields back whenever they break. And that will really help out your Vanguard's Token and your Softened Blows so that you can continue to be really, really tanky and not take any real damage. Once again, I'll talk a little bit more about this once we get into the gameplay. But just know that Shield Refresh and Ultimate Speed, those are the two inscriptions that you kind of want if you can get it on your Storm for your normal components. Next up is Gunslingers Mark. Now, I absolutely love this thing. First of all, I have a God roll on it because it had luck on it before, so now it has 100% armor, 25% ultimate speed. But the main thing that this does is that this will increase your gear recharge speed by 50% and lower your gear damage by 20%. Now, you really won't notice too much of the gear damage being decreased, but you will definitely notice the insane recharge speed that you are going to get if you are using this. Also, this will increase your weak point damage by 60% if you're hovering. That's really good for Steam Vent because that will up the damage if you are hitting things in the head. And it's really good for your weapons too. If you are using weapons, this can give you a nice damage bonus. So overall, I personally really like Gunslingers Mark just because of the insane recharge speed. It is something that you will definitely notice if you put this on. Now I want to quickly talk about a couple other components that are great for the Storm. One is Mark of Clarity. This is amazing for your tanky build. If you're using Softened Blows, Vanguard's Token, and Mark of Clarity together, you are pretty much unkillable because one of your only weaknesses is actually elemental damage. But with Mark of Clarity, the elemental damage will actually heal you, which is like insane. So I definitely love this a lot. Right now I'm using Emergency Power and I'm just using my ultimate to try to heal me. And if I take more damage, I pop my ultimate again. But Mark of Clarity is amazing. So if you want to be really, really unkillable, use Mark of Clarity. Also, there's a couple other ones here like Mark of Ruin. This is really good for fire damage, and Steam Vent does fire damage, so that's really cool. And also Mark of Wrath. This will increase your gear damage by 50%. But the thing about this is that this used to be amazing because of the effect. Whenever you detonate a combo, it does a lightning explosion. Now, I actually recently took a screenshot of this just to kind of show it off to my friends. but they have dramatically nerfed the lightning damage. It used to do well over 100,000, and now it does like nothing. It's like 7,600. So if you're looking at the screenshot, you can actually see the lightning damage there, and that's how much it does. So it's definitely not worth it in my opinion anymore. And then the final one is Token of the Pupil. This is really good for Steam Vent because when you hit something with L1, it's going to increase your R1 damage by 60% for 10 seconds. This will definitely up your Steam Vent damage by a lot. I have a god roll on this as well. I have 48% ultimate speed. I don't have room to fit this on. I wish I could because I definitely would. But also this will increase the number of your combo chains by 2, which is fine. But this is a really good component. Like I said, it's kind of difficult to decide which component you want to use because there are so many good ones. But I like the setup that I have, but it's up to you on what you might want to do. And it also depends on what legendary components you might actually have. Alrighty guys, so now it's time to get into the gameplay. I'm going to show you on how this build works. I'm going to show you the tanky stuff and also how insane Steam Vent is, especially when you have unlimited Steam Vent. Alrighty guys, so this is going to be the gameplay. It's on Grandmaster 3, and I'm in a cave right now. This is the same cave I always use, really just more for a point of reference than anything. But the first thing I'm going to do in here is go and get shot. I want to go ahead and show off Soften Blows and Vanguard's token. If you guys have never seen it before, a lot of people don't really know about this. But this is how you can easily make your storm extremely tanky. Now the way that this is going to work is that Soften Blows and Vanguard's token can stack together. But you do have to take a little bit of health damage before Soften Blows will actually kick in. So every single time that I actually take a little bit of health damage, Soften Blows is going to kick in. But the real thing that's actually happening here is I am getting a very slight amount of shields back each time. And then they're breaking the shields, they're hitting my health, and it's kicking in Soften Blows. Within that 5 seconds, I'm actually getting my shields back. And that is because I have shield refresh, and it's working really good. Now, I will become critical at some point because I'm getting shot by multiple enemies, but eventually, my health will actually come back, even if it's critical. So as long as I'm not taking a lot of damage, like if you're getting hit by a legendary Scar Hunter with a Gatling gun, that will probably take you down. Or if you're getting hit by elemental stuff like fire, that's going to do damage over time, and that can take you down. But if you have Mark Clarity on, you don't have to worry about that because the elemental stuff is going to heal you, and that's going to make you pretty much like unkillable at that point. It is absolutely amazing. But what I like to use is emergency power because I normally use my ultimate to heal me a lot, and then whenever I'm about to die, I get my ultimate back automatically. I can use it again. It's really, really nice. So I can pretty much stand here almost all day, and they're not really going to be able to kill me. And it's just kind of funny. I can go make a sandwich right now. Now, I do want to talk about the sigils I'm using. I'm using a fire sigil and an ice sigil. I'm doing that for my Steam Vent. I definitely would say you probably want to do the same. Now, for the other sigil, it's completely up to you. Right now, I have an ultimate sigil on, and I do like ultimate sigil a lot. It really does help your ultimate damage. But besides that, you could use a combo sigil. I'm going to be doing a lot of combos here, so combo sigil is very good. Also, a gear sigil is nice if you need it for the recharge. That can actually give you recharge for Steam Vent and stuff like that. And then the final one is the shield sigil. That can actually help you when it comes to becoming super tanky because it doesn't just give you shields, it also gives you shield regeneration. So if you don't have things like shield refresh to help you get your shields back quicker within that 5 seconds of Soften Blows, a shield sigil can do the job for you. But now I'm going to go ahead and respawn, and I'll come back in here and I'll kill all these enemies, and I'll show you on how this build actually works when I'm attacking the enemies. Alrighty, now I'll actually go and kill these enemies this time, but the first thing I do want to quickly show is how the recharge works with Gunslingers Mark, and just having a bunch of charges, and also having a bunch of gear recharge. I mean, look at that. It's ridiculous on how much I can actually spam that and how quickly it actually comes back. If I am using my L1 ability on top of it, or if I am shooting a little bit here and there with my gun, I can easily get it back no problem. And also remember, if they take my shield down, that will also allow me to go ahead and get all of my charges back. So that's one of the best things. Now we have an Elementalist out right now, so we have to watch out for that because that's the only thing that can really do any real damage to me. So let me go ahead and take that thing out right away. Like if it sets me on fire, it's not a good thing. So let me go ahead and just murder that. So yeah, you just have to know what to watch out for and try to make that your priority. But like I said, if you're ever worried about it, just use Mark of Clarity. Because Mark of Clarity will just heal you whenever you're taking elemental damage, and it is quite funny, and especially in the Cataclysm itself. That's the best part. If you actually use it in the Cataclysm when you're fighting the boss has multiple fire attacks that will normally just kill people. Now there is one fire attack that it's a one-hit kill no matter what, but a lot of the other fire attacks, like when she makes the floor lava and you're taking all this damage, if you have Mark of Clarity on, you can literally like run through that and it's healing you the entire time, which is quite funny. But Mark of Clarity is amazing, and Steam Vent overall is amazing, but the Gravedigger's great too. Now one thing you can do with the Gravedigger that I really like to do is you can freeze targets with your Winter's Wrath and then shoot them with the Gravedigger. And it is going to absolutely destroy things, because whenever you're trying to shoot something, it's always better to freeze it so that it's not moving, and then you can easily hit it in its crit spot. And anything that is armor will melt from the Gravedigger. So I absolutely love this weapon. But I also really do like the Rainmaker, primarily just for doing boss damage. Like that is something that is just amazing. Alrighty guys, so I mean that's going to pretty much do it for this. I wanted to show off everything when it comes to the new Storm and why the new Storm is so strong and so powerful. Steam Vent is absolutely amazing, and I definitely want to try to get me a God roll if possible. I definitely want one with a lot of damage and at least one extra charge, because I think that would be your best of both worlds. Where right now I have all these charges, but you know, they could be a lot stronger. I am absolutely one-shotting most enemies, no problem when I'm comboing them. But like I said, it could be better, especially for really strong enemies. Alrighty, well I would really appreciate it if you could like this video for me. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell for future videos, and I really do hope that everyone has a very nice day, and peace out.